everyone, so it's good to see you all again. I'm Natasha and welcome back. So, today we're going to continue with our fifth chapter, complex numbers. And, today we have a question to discuss which is related to the previous topic and, which was the argument of a complex number. We'll be solving a question which is related to the argument of a complex number, principal argument 2. So, I've already written the question, and so, what are we waiting for? Let's start solving this question. Okay, so this is a practice question, and I'll be discussing only one question today. Okay? Because we haven't done any question related on arguments, so I thought, only the one question is just fine for us. Okay? Yeah, so what's the question? Find the argument of 1 plus iota. Okay, so remember, if I'm going to talk about the coefficients, this is 1 already, but iota has 1 right here, okay? Don't forget that, there is a 1, just beside this iota. Just before the iota, you can even say, okay? Yeah, so we have to find the argument. So, we discussed about this thing, in the previous video, for which we have to, do these 3 steps. So, through these 3 steps, we'll be just able to find the argument of this complex number, right? So, let's say this is, z. Okay, complex number z, which is equal to 1 plus iota, okay? So I've let this, z be a complex number, which is for, this 1 plus iota, okay? If this is clear, then let's move on, okay? But I don't think there's any need to, limit just having a variable or something. Well, okay, whatever, but this is not what we'll be discussing about. So, let's move on. Okay, so our first step is, if you remember, the first step was to find the argument, for the theta first of all, right? The tan inverse things, right? Yeah, so I will be finding this argument of z, which is equal to theta, and theta is equal to tan inverse of y by x, right? It was 10 inverse of y by x, right? So our y is 1 and our x is also 1. So what does this mean? This means is that we have 1 by 1. So this is totally clear to us. So what we can see here is this 10 inverse is gonna be 1. Right? Yeah, it's going to be 1. Right? So we have our theta, which is equal to 10 inverse 1. Got it? If the first step's clear, then let's move on to the second step. And in the second step, we have to find the, quadrant, right? So let's draw it. Okay. Yeah, so what we have here is, okay, so this is the first quadrant, the second, the third one, and the fourth one, right? Yeah, so in the first quadrant, okay, if you remember this A, S, T, C thing or diagram, I can say. Okay, so this is A, S, T, C. S is for sine, A is for all, T is for tan, and C is for cos. All these things are for the positive ones, okay? Then the rest of them will be negative, okay? Right. So what we can see here is, let's focus on these two, our y and x, okay? So our x is positive and our y is also positive, which means that both of these, axes, or I can say just the part of the complex number, both of them are, positive. So what I will say that this exists in first quadrant. So this complex number lie in the first quadrant, right? Somewhere right here, okay? So what I will say that it's in the first quadrant just because both of them are positive quadrants. Okay, is this clear? If the second step clear, then let's move on. What are we waiting for? Okay, so let's move on to our third and the final step, where we will discuss about this thing. Okay, negative pi, less than or equal to theta, and theta less than positive pi. Okay, so this is for the principal argument, right? Yeah. So this theta is going to be less than or equal. Okay, no. Let me tell you. This negative pi is going to be less than or equal to theta, and this theta is going to be less than the positive pi, right? Okay, let's move on. So what I will say that this, what's going to be the theta's value? What's going to be the theta's value? Okay, so theta is going to be, okay, one thing. What we can see here is okay, let's look at this one, okay? We have 10 inverse 1. 10, 1, okay. Okay, 10, 1 is equal to, if I'm going to talk about this 10, 1 in radians, then what is it going to be? Wait a second, let me write it again, okay? Let me write it again. Right, yeah. So I'm saying this 10, 1, okay? This 1. If I have to write this in radians, then what is it going to be? We have a value for it, right? Which is pi by 4. If you remember it, okay? Right? Isn't it? Yeah. So I don't think there's any need to just, clean it. So let it be where it is. Okay, so what we can see that our theta is actually f pi by 4. And pi by 4 is also, if I'm going to talk about it in degrees, then it's going to be 45 degrees, right? Yeah, it's going to be pi by 4, which is going to be 45 degree, right? So our theta is equal to, 45 degree as we can see it. So we find out the argument of 1 plus iota. And in the last step, what we had is this theta is equal to 45 degree. Okay, so this question's done and it was kind of, really easy. So we did all these 3 steps. In the first step, this theta and tan inverse thing. Then in the second, to identify the quadrant. In the third, we finally found out the value of the theta, okay? Right? Yeah. So that was all, and so I think one question is enough for today, and so that's all for today. And in the next video, maybe we'll be again solving a question, and I even told you about that I'll have some kind of question. If you remember, I discussed a question. When we were discussing about the argument of the complex number, not the principal argument, the amplitude of a complex number. So we discussed the question 2, which was related to the polar form, if you have really watched that video. So we're going to discuss that question 2, as I said before too, and so we'll maybe discuss that question in the next video, or we'll discuss any other topic, or there are a lot of things to discuss. One more thing. In this 5th chapter, we have 2 things to discuss. Complex numbers. So complex numbers are almost complete. Almost. So what we have next is to discuss about the quadratic equations. And we're just familiar with this topic. We have studied about it in earlier classes. You have studied about it in earlier classes. So we'll soon discuss about the quadratic equations, and after that, we'll continue. After that, we'll actually start the new chapter, which is going to be chapter 6, linear inequalities. We have lots of chapters to discuss, and we skipped a chapter which was third chapter, which was related to the trigonometric, right? Trigonometric functions, if I'm right. So we'll discuss that too. So, thanks for watching, and have a great day.